There we go. Okay, so what I thought I'd do today, for those of you that have come to these events before, you might remember me doing similar things about digital tools. We always use free tools that you guys can access easily. And I thought today we'd look at something that I think is a brilliant tool. And I know that, you know, speaking to assessors, sometimes they've never heard of it. So, I mean, let's have a quick show of thumbs. Has anybody used Edpuzzle before? Well, not many. Excellent news. Okay, so hopefully I'll hook you into Edpuzzle because I think it's a brilliant tool. So this is just a taster of the type of digital training we do here. So what we're going to do today, I just want to take you through the main points of Edpuzzle. What is it? What can you use it for? It's a really good tool for formative assessment. Okay. And very much I'm going to concentrate on how you can use it remotely with learners, but you can use it live as well. And then we're going to look, because a really good point about Edpuzzle is that it keeps the progress of those learners, and you can actually check if they've looked at the video you're going to assign them or not. Usually when I say to people, watch a video, did you watch it? Yeah, they haven't. This is a really good way. We'll show you how to check whether they've actually accessed that video and taken part in the assessment questions. So what is it? So as I just said there, it's a web-based interactive video lesson, okay? Because quite often I think we like to set videos for learners or say, well, look, you know, this is a link, watch this. But do we know they've actually taken it in? Okay, so it's actually quite a passive activity, watching a video. But Edpuzzle will allow you to add assessment all the way through that video. Okay, so you can add questions, multiple choice questions, and open-ended. So you can differentiate and you can get a lot more critical thinking out of your learners. As I said, you can use it live or you can use it non-live as homework. Okay, so for a free tool, you know, this gives you a lot of functionality. Now you can import, mainly you will import videos from YouTube, but you can also upload your own videos. So for those of you that maybe record a PowerPoint, or, you know, as I'm going to show you later, you can record a video within Edpuzzle to give instructions to your learners, okay, which some learners might react to a little bit better. So as I said, you can track your learners' progress after they've taken the assessment on the video to see how they're getting on and if you need to send them anything else. But there's loads of little tips and tricks and loads of functionality for this free tool. So, and as I said, watching a video is classed as a passive task in teaching, but by adding all the bells and whistles and by adding questions throughout, we can make it into a really good active learning activity for them. Okay, so let's get stuck in. So what I thought we'd do, Rachel is going to be my guinea pig learner today. I thought what we'd do first, I'd show you the end result. Okay, so this is a video lesson that I've created and I've assigned to Rachel as my learner. And what Rachel's going to do, and I hope I haven't surprised you, Rach, you're going to share your screen. Yes, because I know you've logged in, haven't you, Rachel? Yeah, but whilst you're logging in, Rach, I will just show people what Edpuzzle looks like. Okay, so it's edpuzzle.com. You can sign up for free as a teacher. Now, Rachel, I have put into a class, okay, and I'm going to go through that with you later, how to set up a class, how to invite your learners to join. But I have set up, I'm just going to show you in my classes here. Rachel, give me a thumbs up when you're ready. I'm not filling or anything, you know. Oh, she's ready. Excellent. Okay, so when you're ready, Rach, if you could take your mute off and if you could share your screen for me. Because I just wanted to start with showing you what the learner sees, okay, and what they go through when they're doing a lesson that you've made through Edpuzzle.
Now, I am your standard learner.
She is.
So,
That's why I chose Rachel for this, because she doesn't like digital stuff too much. So I thought we'd pick Rach. Okay, so this is Rachel as a student going into Edpuzzle, okay? And she can see there's two assignments I've set up, but I want her to do the body language one. So hopefully Rachel has shared her sound so you can, she looked panicked there. So I'm going to ask Rach to go through this. And when she stops, I'm just going to point out a couple of things to you, and then Rachel tell you to proceed, okay? So Rach, as a learner... Can you
just check that I've shared my sound when I play this? Can you hear that?
No.
Okay, so I'll stop share.
Classic, and that's what we did that on purpose, didn't we, Rach?
We did, just to demonstrate that
just to demonstrate what learners can be like.
Okay. Most of her day interacting with customers and coworkers. There's a lot of talking involved, but there's also another form of nonverbal communication that's being used just as often. Body language.
Okay, so at this point, I've put in a multiple choice question. Rachel is going to answer it and submit. Hooray, she got it right. Brilliant. Okay, so when she's ready, she's now going to go to...
Body language is the process of communicating through nonverbal signals. It includes things like our posture, facial expressions, gestures, and more. The meanings of these all vary from culture to culture, but we instinctively read body language and interpret it as some expression of moods, feelings, or intentions.
Okay, here's another multiple choice. Now, Rach, before you do anything, I just wanted to say, you'll notice that Rachel's got the question there, but also she's got a choice here to rewatch. So she go, oh God, I don't know. She can rewatch it and then answer the question. I've also set this video, and this is important, to not allow people to skip, because your learners will just go, oh, I can't be bothered, and go to the end. But there is an option to stop them doing that. Okay, so Rachel's ready. Submit. She got it right. Fantastic. Yeah.
So in Alice's case, even before she speaks, she may be communicating all kinds of things to customers. For example, if her arms are crossed and she's avoiding eye contact, customers may not find her to be very approachable.
Okay. You can see these are multiple choice. So really, these are quite straightforward. Again, you can make them as hard or as easy as you choose. Submit. And continue. There we go. Lovely.
However, Alice could be in a friendly mood, even though her body language suggests otherwise. And this isn't necessarily a conscious choice that she's made. This could just be how she habitually presents herself. But if Alice is aware of these habits, she can work on improving her body language. Changing your habits can be difficult, but if you take time to pause and check in with yourself, you can start to notice them and adjust things to become a better nonverbal communicator.
Okay, so here's the final multiple choice.
Do you want me to get one wrong?
Oh yeah, please. There we go. So they get instant feedback to whether they're right or wrong.
This awareness can also be applied to reading others' body language. Let's say Alice notices that her coworker is unusually quiet, has his body turned away from her, and is slouched over. She may pick up that he's upset, or that there's an unspoken issue at hand. Depending on Alice's relationship with him, she may want to give him some space, or ask if anything's wrong. Being aware of the various aspects of body language can make all the difference in how people perceive you and how you perceive them. Be aware of how you present yourself, and you can say a lot without speaking.
And the final question, I've made an open-ended question. So this is where we want to really test now Rachel's critical thinking skills. Why do you think body language is important in your role? She can write as much as she likes there. Yes, that's yes. Wouldn't want you to be grumpy. Excellent. Okay, you'll notice before you press continue, we've got to be graded. Okay, so it just says there to be graded. So that means any open-ended questions, I have to go in and I can give feedback and I can mark it. I'll show you how to do that later. So Rach can continue now.
GCSE
I've also added something else.
Creating opportunities for a better life.
Edpuzzle allows you not only to add multiple choice questions and open-ended questions, but also, don't press it yet, Rach, clicky McClickerson over there. She never waits for me. I've added a note. Okay, so you can, at any point in your video, you can add notes and instructions to your learners. But what's really good about it is you can add links, okay, to other websites. You can add links to maybe your Dropbox or your Google Drive to attach documents. You can add pictures. It's a very media-rich note that you can use with your learners. So we've used this here at the end to give links to the next task. So now you finish this short assignment, please research body language using this link. And then she'll click that and go to that website in a separate tab, do her work, and etc. So it's not just a video. This is a proper lesson. You can get your multiple choice questions in there to know that they're taking, they're paying attention. Your longer open-ended open questions to test their understanding, but then you can add notes and links to further information, further tasks. So this can be quite a really well-rounded lesson if you structure it well. Rachel, thank you for being my learner.
Welcome.
I'm now going to go back to Edpuzzle and show you how to do that. Okay, so how do we set one of those up? Okay, and I will mark Rachel's answer later to show you my amazing feedback skills with it. Okay, so there we go. This is Edpuzzle as a teacher. Okay, so your homepage, when you come in, you see all of this. Okay, I just want to take you through the interface. Today is just an introduction to this, but I would really encourage you to go and have a look at it because it's such a good tool. So the first thing I see, okay, is discover, and you can see all these videos because the first thing you need to do is find a video. Okay, and you can see that we've got over here in the top right hand corner, we've got add content. So this is where I can say, right, I need to find a video. So we'll have a look at that in a second. Back to the left hand side, we've got discover, where you find your videos. You've got your content. Okay, as a teacher, you can see all the lessons I've made before. And these are my classes. Pandaversary event here. So we can see these are my assignments, my class members. Okay, there we go. So I've got all the pandas in there. There we go. And you can see that it says one new answer. So I know that one of my learners has submitted. Okay, but we're going to mark that later. First of all, I just want to, let's have a look at making a video lesson. So I'm going to go back to discover, and this is my home page again. So up in the right hand corner, add content. We've got 4 choices. Discover video content that is stored within Edpuzzle. You can upload your own videos if you have them. This is a new feature, and this, I think, is a really good feature. This is to record video from within Edpuzzle. So you can record instructions to your learners. You can record showing them how to use something on your screen. It's brilliant. But also, you can set a student project for the learners to make their own videos and add notes to it to show you their understanding. So for a free tool, okay, this is great. You can set lessons and you can set assignments for them to make their own video content. And actually they could make their own video and feedback to you on something, okay, or to show you their understanding. Or they could add an audio note to tell you something. So there's a lot of functionality here for a free tool. So let's get going. Let's make a lesson. So I'm gonna have a look at over here, discover, you've got community. What that means, for everybody that's added an Edpuzzle lesson, to Edpuzzle, they've made it public. If they've made it public, you're able to see it and you're able to use it. That's the main thing. So you've got hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world making their own lessons. You can tap into that if you want to. But what I'm going to do, and my school is just your content, as I showed you earlier. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to YouTube. Okay. Now, what's good about this is it's not just YouTube. You can see here, they've got some key channels, okay, from different providers. So for example, I don't know if anybody's heard of Khan Academy. If you look at Khan Academy, there's lots of lessons they've prepared that you may be able to use. National Geographic, my personal favorite, TED Talks. So you can have a look for a really good TED Talk and use that as a lesson if you wanted to. Without further ado, though, I'm going to go straight to YouTube. So I'm going to go back to all YouTube. And I'm going to search for, what should we look at? Let's look for health and social care, which I prepared earlier. Search for that. Okay, health and social care. I tell you what, has anybody got any suggestions on subjects to look for, just to show you the range? Okay, so if anybody wants to unmute or put it in the chat, and I will do a search for you so you can see what the range of what they've got in Edpuzzle. Thank you, Rachel.
Health and safety tool.
British values. Now that's a good one, right? Because actually that's a good one. I haven't prepped you, Rachel, but that's a good one because if I put in British values here, if you want to, you can filter here for country and United Kingdom, okay? So it may be that you think, well, it's going to be better if I go for UK related videos on this one. Try it. So go for United Kingdom, save that. And it's still gone for health and social care. So let's try that again. British. There we go. Okay. So first of all, notice we're still in the community tab. That means here are all the videos from people that have actually made video lessons on British values before. So you could go and have a look at theirs. And if it's good, you could use it. Let's go to YouTube though. Okay, so YouTube. All right, it might be that. Let's have a look. Let's do this one, shall we? Okay, so I'm going to click on this one. Now, what it does now, it allows you to preview the video, see if you think it's suitable. If you scroll down though, you will see if anybody else in the Edpuzzle community has used this video before for a lesson. So you filtered it to British values, and now you can see, well, who's done this? So show all, let's have a look. You can see, okay. Okay, so for some reason, nobody's used that one before. Let's go back. There we go. Okay, but sometimes, for some reason, nobody's used this video before, but sometimes you'll see that people have used that particular video that you've looked at, and it will give you the examples below. So it's really good in that respect. So British values, what I'm going to do now, I could either just assign this as a video, but that's no good because there's no assessment in it. Or I could copy it to my content. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go straight to edit. This is how you edit a video. Now, what's really good about Edpuzzle is you don't have to use the whole video. So if it's a really long, boring video, and you only want them to look at maybe minutes 2 to 4, you can cut it. So to cut it, and this is the first choice to us here, okay, we can, I mean, I'll play it.
There's more to being British than talking about the weather, watching the World Cup and making an amazing cup of tea. In Britain, we have a set of values we hope to be shared by all that guide us to be a nation where everyone feels.
Now, for the sake of time, I'm just going to give you an example of how you would do this. So I'm going to add a cut there. I'm going to say, I like that beginning bit. You can see it's cut it there on the video line. But actually, I'm going to cut out the middle bit because that's way too long. I'm going to, let's have a look. You'd obviously spend more time doing this. I'll start it about individual liberty. I just want them to look at that. So I'm going to leave that there. And you'll note now, okay, if I keep it like that, so I've got the beginning bit I've cut out the bit in the middle and I just want the end bit. Okay, so if I say finish, you'll see that the new time is now 1 minute and 1. Okay. Right, so going back. Now, a good thing about Edpuzzle is if you import your own videos, or you find one from somewhere that isn't YouTube, strange to imagine that because everything's on YouTube these days, you can add a voiceover. However, recently YouTube put a block on this. So if it is a YouTube video, you can't add a voiceover. So we're going to go straight to questions. Okay. So this is the bit that's really important. This is where you can control the assessment. So I'm going to play along. I mean,
there's more to being British than talking about the weather, watching the World Cup and making an amazing cup of tea. In Britain, we have a set of values we hope to be shared by all.
So I'm going to pause it there and I'm going to say, right, okay, let's do an open-ended question at this point. And I'm going to say, right, what do you think British values are? Okay. Now, this is brilliant, I think. This is a new feature in Edpuzzle that came out over the last month. You can put allow audio responses. So if your learners prefer to speak to you instead of writing, switch that on and they can literally just press the microphone and record an answer to you. Okay, so we're going to save that.
That guide us.
Okay. Then I'm just going to shimmy along.
That guide us to be a nation where duality demonstrates our value in British society.
I'm going to put a quick multiple choice in. Okay. Which British value is being described here? I'm just going to put my choices. Now, of course, with any multiple choice quiz, you've got to remember to tell them which is the right answer. Okay, so I'm just going to say, right, this is the right answer. Okay, so you've got a choice. So just press the tick. You can add more choices if you want to, but for time, I'm just going to keep it to 2. Let's press save. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to shimmy along to the end. Obviously, you'll spend a lot more time doing this when you're doing it. I could do anything here. I could do another multiple choice question. I could do an open-ended question, but I'm going to put a little note, all right, just to show you how that works. So here, I could actually put audio. So I'm going to just say, hello. Now, I'd like you to go and research British values and write a 1,000 words essay, I wouldn't say this really, on what British values mean to you. Okay, and I can stop that there. Stop. Stop. Okay, good. So I'm still recording. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, for some reason it's, there we are. Right. Okay, that does work. I was ignoring a little message to me somewhere else. Right, okay, so I've done that. Now I'm going to save that. But also, you know, notes. There we go. Let's add another one. I could put a link. So I could say, right, use these links to help your research, or links to help your research. I could just do a quick little search for British values. Obviously, I'm rushing a little bit, but just let's have a look. Yeah, let's use that. And I'm just going to copy that link. I'm going to go back to my Edpuzzle and press link here. Add the link. And there we go. So I've made a lesson now. So I'm going to finish that. I've got my little lesson. I'm going to go back now. I just want to go back and show you how I would assign that to my class. So in my classes, you can add a new class here. Now, if any of you use Google Classroom or any different LMSs like Moodle, you can actually connect it through that, which is, again, brilliant for a free tool. But I'm just going to create a brand new class. I'm going to say British Values class. I'm just going to say classic. There we go. Here I would invite students, and it's actually really simple. It's not as bad as you might think. For, you know, some people I know think, oh, well, my learners are, they're not very digital savvy, but it really is. You just share via email and it will send them a link and they sign in with, so they sign in with their name, their email address and a password, and they go straight to that lesson. Okay. Okay, so that's how you create a class. Now, what I'm going to do here, though, I'm going to assign that British Values video. So I'll go back to my contents. This is the one. And I'm going to assign. So up here in the top right, assign, and it's got, right, well, which class? Well, I'm going to assign it to that class, and then assign. This is important over here. Okay, so you can set a due date for them to complete this, which is great. So I could say, right, by the end of the month, and then I'll save that. This is really important. Prevent skipping will stop them skipping and just answering the questions. Okay, so if you really want them to get the most out of it, make sure that's ticked. You can also turn on your closed captions as well for learning styles, etc., and accessibility. So easy as that. I've assigned. And then anybody in that class will get that video. Let's go and mark Rachel's work. I think everybody wants to know how she did. So let's go back to here. And I'm going to go into the Pandaversary class. You can see I've got one new answer from Rachel, my star student. So I'm going to click on that. So I can see now, okay, so I can see everybody in my class. I can see that Panda Smith did brilliantly. Panda Williams, okay, maybe a little bit more work needed there. And I can click on each of these to go into more detail of exactly what they did throughout that lesson. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark Rachel's work. So I can also see that Panda Jones hasn't watched all of it yet. So I'm going to have a word with Panda Jones. But I'm going to look at Rachel's here. So she's done that. And of course, the multiple choice questions are marked for you. But with the open, okay, she got one wrong there. It's not like Rachel. However, this bit here, I'm going to add a comment. Yes, nobody wants the grumpy Rachel. Class feedback there. Okay, so there we go. Done that, but I'm going to mark that correct. But you could actually, if it was only partially correct, do a grade. Don't recommend grades myself, but I'm just going to say, yeah, but I'm happy with that. Okay, so there we go. Rachel's been graded. Let's go next student, and then you can go through each of them. But what's good, if we go back then to my class, I can look at each of those class members again. But I'm going to go to gradebook, and we can now see, okay, the grades there. But what's good about this is you can download that as an Excel file. So you've got the scores and you can analyze that to your heart's content. Remember, this is a free tool. Okay, so you've made a video lesson. So it's not a passive video anymore. You've added questions to it. You've added links for more work, and they're getting more out of it. You've assigned it to them and you can analyze the results. Brilliant formative assessment tool. So look, that's a whistle-stop tour of Edpuzzle. I'm going to take you back here just to say, in summary, that you can use, what I love about it the most is you can search for anything and it's pretty much there, even if it's from YouTube or from other people that have shared their lessons. You can record your own. I mean, that's brilliant. Instead of going to another app to record your own videos, you can do it straight there in Edpuzzle. Set assignments for them to have a go if you wanted to. Yes, that's a great one, Nikita. What you would need to do then is reassign it. Okay, so reassign it to them and they can have another go. 2 types of questions, so you can differentiate and stretch them and challenge them if you need to. Great way of adding notes. And remember, you can add those notes with audio, but you can allow them to answer in audio if you want to. And I love the bit about tracking the progress because you can see if they've actually looked at it or not. So a really quick introduction to Edpuzzle there.
Sorry,
Hello.
Just before you do that, there's a couple of other questions in the chat.
Oh yes, just seen that. Lovely.
So Rachel's asked, how does the learner see the returned and marked work?
Okay, so that will, so Rachel, would you be able to share?
I can. I might have clicked something, you know what me, I can't help but click something.
First of all, it will send you an email. It will send the learner an email, okay? And then they will be able to log in, click on the assignment and see the feedback, okay? Rach, are you able to do that for us?
Let me just check. Yeah, let me just find my Edpuzzle screen. I have clicked on something, so I'm sorry if I've gone to the wrong place.
But guys, just to let you know, the learner gets an email and a notification. There is an app, okay? So learners can download an app to their phone with push notifications, and they can go straight in and see that feedback straight away, okay? Okay, so, okay, in progress, due assignments, completed. And then she clicks on that. And then you'll be able to see the feedback from herself.
There we are.
Okay. We had another question there. Are there any copyright issues you need to be aware of? The way I look at this is, okay, the main copyright issue there was with YouTube, doesn't want anybody adding their own voiceover to any videos. So they've taken care of that. If through Edpuzzle, you have searched for it, it's in the public domain, okay? So that's how Edpuzzle look at it, that you are able to use it. Anything that they show you, you can use. But of course, that's up to your judgment if you don't want to do that, but you can always credit the video in a comment maybe. But from my point of view, if it's in Edpuzzle and you search for it and it's in the public domain, you're able to use it. Any other questions, Rach?
No, that's it. You can go back to sharing your screen again, Ros.
Okay, so just to finish off then. That's just a snapshot of one app. We all know during the last 18 months how challenging it's been, okay, especially for those of you that have never taught online before. We've got a course that will get you really ready for that, but also give you a chance to play with these apps and make your own content ready for your classes. It's called Take Your Training Online. If you want more info, scan that code. Rachel will give you some more links later. But yeah, the next one starts on 12th of October, so come and join us. Over to you, Rach.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Ros. Yeah, the Take Your Training Online course we've had some really good feedback from it because Ros does it all very practically like that, allowing people to have a go whilst we're doing it. So yeah, feel free to check that out on the website. Lovely, thanks, Ros. Our next person up is our lovely Anne. So Anne, if you'd like to share your screen, and over to you.
Thank you, and thanks for that, Ros. Yeah, I hadn't come across that before. I definitely use that one. Fantastic tool.
It's great, honestly. I love it.
I'll just share my screen. so hopefully you can hear me and you can see the screen. So just put in the chat, or just, yeah, like you've got. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about motivating learners with NLP coaching techniques. So some of you might have heard or might not have heard of NLP. Can use a bit of a buzzword recently, but there are some useful, I've been on some training courses, and there's some useful features that I think you can use with your learners. So what you will have to do with this task as well is it's a bit more attractive. So you will have to either use a separate tab or digital device like your mobile phone and scan the code there. Hopefully you've used Slido before. If not, you can just go to slido.com, put the code in there, 027748, and it'll come up with some polls so you can add some comments and vote on things. But it'll give you reminders as we go, so don't panic. Right, so starting off to think then, so why NLP? What's the point of it? So I don't know if we've got any grumpy Rachels, but you might have some other grumpy learners, you know, with their arms crossed. What do we need to know? They might be struggling maybe, and I'm sure you can tell me, you know, maybe learners that you have and that they're experiencing problems, any kind of difficulties, they're stuck with things, they need a bit of help, they don't really understand the feedback. We all have a kind of negative bias quite strongly as humans, which makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. You know, you don't remember maybe the flower that you saw yesterday, but you remember the bear that was going to attack you. So you do kind of tend to remember naturally sometimes the things, which can be a bit of a problem sometimes in today's world. So we want to kind of get, you know, positive, motivate our learners, get them engaged. You know, it's like with feedback, you always remember that one thing, don't you? You might have a load of stuff, all really, really good. You know, remember that just one little negative feedback. So starting off then, so on Slido, just put in for me, kind of just vote, what do you know about NLP? So just say, you can either click on nothing, a little, competent, or expert. Just give you a little minute to do that. Okay, thanks. Oh, we've got a competent person in here, at least one. Very nice. Okay, fabulous. So most of you beginners don't know anything about it or know a little by the look of it. Fantastic. Okay. You'll be an expert by the end of the session. It's just a little taster, but hopefully you'll just pick up a couple of little tools that you could use with your learners. Just let it settle. I think that's finished. It's like watching the Eurovision Song Contest, isn't it, when everyone comes in with their results. Okay, so yeah, a little bit of theory with Mr. Motivator. Right then, so NLP stands for neuro-linguistic processing. So I'll just break those words down a little bit. So first of all, you've got the neuro side of it. So you talk about the nervous system, the mind, and how information gets into the mind is processed through 5 senses. So you've got your visual, obviously through your eyes there. There is a bit of an overlap with another theory. I don't even want to put it in the chat if it seems a bit familiar, some of this. You might come across any courses you've been with us or somewhere else. Auditory, so you're hearing, how you're hearing things. Kinesthetic. So does anyone want to put in the chat what kinesthetic maybe refers to? I'm not sure if you can see the chat on this feature.
I can let you know of any comments there, Anne, so don't worry.
Thanks, Ros. Okay, thank you. Oh, I can see something coming in.
Yeah. Yes, we've got lots of things coming in saying doing, practical, hands-on.
Lovely stuff, exactly. Spot on.
Tactile learning.
Excellent, fantastic, exactly, that's it. Always active learning styles. And then your olfactory, so that's your nose, your smells. I think sometimes you might remember things. I know from thinking of my childhood when I was learning things, sometimes I might remember, yeah, images or maybe kind of smells or things or food. a lot of my previous memories and learning is definitely centered around food. What I was eating on that day, did I go to an event and they were serving a certain type of food? So I think olfactory is one of mine. And then gustatory, what do things taste like? Again, back to the food. So yeah, there is a bit of an overlap there with, you might have a bit of Googling, a bit of homework for you then, if you haven't come across before, is that learning styles. This issue is a bit contentious. Some people kind of disagree with it, agree with it, but the learning styles is still pretty relevant. I think the main thing to think about it is not to take it too literally. So if someone's coming out, they've done a quiz, you've probably done that at the beginning of your Panda course, and you come out as an auditory learner, you're not thinking, okay, that's it. I'm all about hearing now, nothing else. I'm not going to do anything visual, nothing to do with my stomach. It's all to do with, so it's just not getting too fixated on the one type of learning, and making sure that as far as possible that your learning that you're doing with your learners is multi assessments and lots of different styles, so that it's as interactive as possible and accessible as possible for people with different preferences. I'm hoping that makes sense. Okay, so the next bit then, so that's the neuro bit. So how you process things, how is it getting to your brain? Through your hearing, through your or different senses. And then the linguistic bit, as hinted by the word linguistic, is to do with your language. But obviously, it's not just your spoken language or your written language. A lot of this is to do with non-verbal communication. So a little graph there, liver graph. So there's a lot of information that comes in all the time through your body movements, your body language, like we had Grumpy at the beginning, all kind of, across kind of, that, obviously you'd recognise them, that's not great, they're not really engaged, not happy. And you give a lot more information. I'm sure you've seen this before, you're aware of this, that you give a lot more information non-verbally than you do verbally. And even with verbal, how you speak, your tone, your pauses, how quickly you're speaking, whether you're anxious, whether you're angry, there's a lot of information that comes in from a lot of different sources. So it's kind of thinking about that when you're kind of giving feedback and when you talk with learners and the cues that you're getting off your learners, the visual cues. So yeah, so the systems through which neural representations are coded, ordered, and given meaning. So the pictures, you're seeing things through your senses, you're seeing through your eyes, and you're seeing those pictures, those images. And then obviously with your hearing, you've got your sounds. And then your feelings, how things feel. I think I'm a bit like that myself. I definitely have, sometimes you've got a gut feeling about things, if you're in a learning environment where, oh, do I understand this? I don't understand this. So it's being aware of all your senses and what that kind of impact that has, how things might taste. I know it's a bit difficult to do taste over online, but not quite so straightforward. And how things smell as well. Again, that's probably easier face to face than it is over. But I mean, definitely, you could use, for example, kind of nice smells or not so nice smells and kind of associate those smells with certain things as a way of working with your learners, possibly. And obviously your words, self-talk is so important. The things that you say to yourselves, the affirmations, and I've seen a lot recently about, the pandemic and being kind to yourself and being patient with yourself, using those positive words of yourself, not thinking, oh God, I don't know to this, I'm useless to this, blah, blah, blah. Thinking, no, be kind to myself. I'm doing the best I can. It's okay, it'll be good, it'll be fine. And a lot of reassurance that you might need for yourself as well when you're working with learners as a teacher and obviously with your learners. So the programming bit then, so we've got the linguistic, we've got the neuro, the linguistic, and then the programming. This is the P bit of the NLP. So there's a lot of information that comes in all the time. Your senses are being bombarded completely with masses of information that's coming in through all these different senses. The figures vary, but you're talking a lot. One of them is 10 million bits of information per second. So that's a lot of information. So you're not consciously processing that. A lot of that, most of what's going on is unconscious. You're not really aware of it. And it's coming into those 5 senses, and there's a lot of filters going on there. So how you interpret and how you understand the information that comes in is all affected and all affected by these things that are going on. Your beliefs, your values, your attitudes. So your memories, your decisions, the language, and the programs that your kind of brain runs. You kind of get, I think as humans often we get into set programs and set responses to things. So you might hear something from somebody, but actually whether you actually interpret it the same way can be completely different depending on what you think about that person, how you feel on that day, your mood. There's so many different things going on. Maybe previous memories, you might have learners that have had a tough time in school or had a tough time with teaching staff in the past, which may then colour their experiences with you as a teacher or as an assessor. So it's always remembering that even sometimes if you're getting feedback and thinking, oh, hang on a minute, learners aren't getting this, why aren't they getting this? the fact that we all interpret things differently and we have all these filters. So it's just bearing in mind, I think, really, that there's so much going on. Humans are amazing, but there is a lot of, you know, chances for misinterpretation when you're communicating, and things then can be deleted or distorted or chunked. So I think this particularly helps to understand sometimes why sometimes you might be thinking, this is quite simple, why aren't we getting this thing? But to remember, to bear in mind that there's all the other things, all these things going on that can affect this. So as a kind of visual, a representation of that is thinking about the fact like an iceberg. Most of the iceberg you don't see, it's under the waterline, also a lot of unconscious stuff. The conscious bit that you can see when you're in front of that learner or that person, or they can see you as the teacher or assessor, the conscious stuff is the tiny little bit. Most of what's going on is all the unconscious, their minds, their values, their beliefs, how they're feeling, whether they're hungry, whether they're tired. So just kind of bearing that in mind, I think, when you're with people. So some top tips then for how you can maybe kind of implement some of these strategies with learners who may be in a bit of a grumpy mood and you want to motivate them on a particular day. So have a look at this image then of, yeah, we've got Barack Obama there and David Cameron, and yeah, so how are they looking? Do you want to kind of put in the chat or just shout out? You've probably heard of the term rapport before. So what kind of is going on here in this image? Would you say that they're in rapport or not in rapport, and why?
Okay, so we've got some comments coming in. We've got laughter, relaxed with each other, relaxed, comfortable with each other's presence, relaxed, positive, at ease.
Yeah, totally agree with that. They all look very relaxed. Yeah, absolutely at ease, comfortable, smiling. They're in a good position to kind of share information with each other. They're in listening with each other. They're mirroring their body language. They've all got, so let's have the same clothes. I'm not sure whether that was done on purpose or not on the day, but they're all got their hands in their pockets. Yeah, they haven't got their arms crossed. They're all smiling, relaxed faces. They're all mirroring each other. There's a lot of similarity going on there. So the key with this is to establish rapport with your learners, is that if there's copying of body language that's going on, it's a good sign. It means you're kind of in tune with each other. You instinctively do this as humans, and you'll start noticing now when you're having, or after you go for this later on, when you're chatting with people, and see whether they're kind of copying how you're holding yourself, the gestures that you're doing. So they call this kind of match and mirror cues. Now, obviously, with your learners, you've got to be a bit careful with this. You can't, a good way to get people on board with you if they're not kind of in sync with you is to kind of copy and mirror their body language. You can't immediately, if you start immediately just copying exactly what they're doing all the time, they're going to get a little bit freaked out. So you've got to kind of do it subtly. So if you kind of talk with someone and they look a bit like they're not, you know, you could just slowly start to kind of maybe reposition yourself and just get them more comfortable and just try to calm the whole situation down if they feel a bit agitated. So we're looking at things like physiology. You're talking about things like kind of their breath. So I mean, I know it's a little bit hard to do this online than it is face to face, but if you're matching someone's breathing, believe it or not, that can help. You're going to settle someone down and someone feels like they're in tune with you. So if they're breathing fast or slow, they're breathing quite, you kind of try and match it and then try to kind of bring it down and just slow your breathing. Also things like their face as well. If someone's kind of flushed and excited or shiny face, that gives you a lot of clues as well, clues to how they're feeling, and their tone of voice. So although having said this, obviously you don't want to be, if they're shouting at you really loudly, you don't want to be shouting back at them really loudly. That's not going to calm things down at all. But if they're quite, you could kind of try to sort of match their tone and their tempo and then kind of calm it down. So slowly change how you're speaking. So representation systems, we'll come to this in a minute. Okay, I'll show you some examples. Yeah, it's about breathing. And keywords as well. So if a person's using certain keywords, there's a saying in kind of NLP that people who like each other, kind of the way that you'll be in sync with people who are the same as you. It's kind of human nature in a way. So if a person's using a keyword over and over again, say they like using example, love doing this, love doing that, love doing the other, love doing the other. And you start using, okay, I'll use that keyword a bit more then, because that's the word that they use quite a lot. Okay, I'll start using love, maybe the way I'm talking to them, or the way that I'm the written feedback that I'm using on emails or on marking. So any kind of keywords that you're using, if you kind of match them those keywords, it'll help to be in sync with that person. So yeah, those are the main things. There's lots of different ones. We haven't got time to go into all of them, but yeah, just try to start looking at your learner, whoever you're with, and try to match and mirror and copy. Like these guys here, you can see they're totally in sync with each other. It's a good thing. And if you start doing that automatically, that's, as I said, that's a really good sign. It shows that you're kind of thinking on the same lines. So moving on slightly then, a way of gaining kind of agreement with people, if they're not in agreement with you, there's some little key tips for this. So for example, if you're disagreeing or with the learner, what they're saying, words to avoid are using but or why. So if you said to someone, okay, that observation was really good, but blah, 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 blah. Whenever you say after that, you know, when you use that but word, they'll just remember the bit afterwards. It kind of acts as a deleting phrase. So from an NLP side of things, it's really kind of not a good thing to say. So instead of saying but, you can say and. So if you're disagreeing with somebody respectfully, you could say, right, I appreciate that, I appreciate your point of view, and blah, blah, blah. Or I respect what you're saying, and I agree what you're saying with that, and not but. Because if you're saying I appreciate, but, you're basically saying, okay, I don't appreciate it at all. I don't respect you and I don't agree with you, is what the other person's hearing. And another word to be careful of as well is why. I know I used why near the beginning of this presentation, but if you're kind of asking a learner all the time or a member of staff, kind of why, it's quite an aggressive phrase in a way. You know, the person can get quite defensive sometimes. So I kind of avoid using why as much as possible. Another frame as well. So if you're talking with someone, you want them to be more specific for an answer. Say you're trying to get a learner to give an assessment criteria, meet an assessment criteria in a professional discussion, for example, and they're not kind of get it. They're not giving the kind of detail that you want, but you can't tell them what you want them to say. You just got to kind of hint, haven't you, and ask questions, open questions to get to that point. So one of those example phrases you could use is for what purpose, or what would happen if. So these are kind of good little ways to kind of help the learner kind of focus on what exactly they're talking about, focus on the detail. So you can say, what's the specifics of this? Give me an example as a way of narrowing that down if your answers you get any are too vague, they're too big. Another little tip as well about encouraging positive growth mindsets is to say, if someone's saying, you know, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do the other, oh, useless this, said on the end, yet, they may not be able to in a position where they can go, okay, I can do this thing. But if they can say, all right, I'm struggling with this, but I can't do this, but yet, that yet gives a bit of possibility there. It's starting to change their frame of mind to a more positive growth kind of mindset. So I found those things particularly useful. Okay, so just a little bit about representational systems. So this is the way that you can help to build rapport and present information to help. So you're not only trying to match maybe their breathing or kind of how they're holding their body, whether they've got, you know, the hand up on their face or whether they're kind of relaxed or not, but the words that you're using. So again, this could be kind of written or this could be verbal. So the four main ones, these representational systems, or they call them kind of predicates, are visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and auditory digital. So you've got your visual, which is obviously your pictures, your images, your eyes, it's coming in through your senses of your eyes, your auditory, your hearing, your kinesthetic, like you were saying earlier, you know, your active learning, you're moving around, and then your auditory digital, which is slightly the same as, which is pretty similar to auditory really. So there's some features there about what common types of learners, I'm saying this again, types of learners, we don't want to stereotype people and put people into categories, but there are quizzes you can do, and online you can Google these and find, it might give results on these. And I just, again, don't stick to just one thing, but just things to be aware of really. So with visual learners, they usually memorize by seeing pictures, images, and how information looks. You might be quite bored by long verbal instructions. They might have already switched off from this particular presentation. They might be less distracted by noise. So phrases that you could use So maybe that when you're talking to that person, or probably when you're writing with a learner, any written communication, so any kind of emails or marking that you're doing, is probably an easy place to start. Because it can be quite hard to remember, okay, what words am I going to say with this particular learner? But you can start looking at how they're emailing, what words they're using in their emails or in their written pieces, to give you clues, give you little hints for what kind of predicates they might have. People can have kind of primary and secondary predicates as well. So phrases, so see, look, view, appear, show, reveal, picture, focus, so all those kind of words kind of give you a bit of a hint that, okay, there might be visual types, that might be their strongest preference. Auditory, so they're really hot on what they can hear, the noise, which would be quite distracting. So they're limbo listening and repeating back easily. They like music and they like talking on the phone. The tone of voice was very important, and the words that you use. So again, those phrases, things like hear, listen, sounds, rings a bell, question, resonate, those kind of words can be really useful to use with learners. And then similarly with kinesthetic, they might talk slowly and breathily, like respond to physical rewards and touching, memorize by doing, led by gut feelings. You know, does this feel right? Does this not feel right? So words again you can use: feel, touch, grasp, solid and feeling, get a handle, get a grip. And then last but not least, you've got auditory digital. So they might talk to themselves. I do that a lot. I talk to myself a lot, I argue with myself. I think I might be auditory digital. So they memorize by steps, procedure, sequences. So they might like that flow, that set procedure of, okay, this, then this, then this, and this. And they want to know why information makes sense. So not just what we're doing today, but why we're doing this. What's the point of it? And words that might resonate with them are things like sense, experience, think, learn, motivate, and know. So what we're going to do, have we got time for this, Ros? Are we still not sure we are with time?
We're a little behind, sorry, Anne.
Okay. All right, no worries. Well, should we do this quickly? Have you got a few minutes for breakout rooms, or?
I think breakout rooms is probably a step too far.
Okay,
Rachel, what do you think?
Yeah, maybe if we could just have a look at the
yeah, let's have a look at them.
Is it able to everyone do it together? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, right. So yeah, so just a quick little task. We'll do this on Padlet. So again, you can scan the code, or you can go to kind of that Padlet link on the bottom. I'll also put this in the chat as well. I'll explain what this is about. So you had your standard feedback here. So maybe you've seen a learner, so you've done an observation of the practice with learners as an assessor. So you said, okay, thank you for your review. In the observation, you had a good understanding of how to keep your learners safe in their working environment. Learners had completed safety inductions beforehand, or wearing appropriate PPE, and did risk assessments of their working areas. As a professional, are there any areas that could be improved? How would you encourage equality and diversity further? So say that was your standard feedback. Okay, I'll come out of this. Right then, so on the Padlet site, you can see on the left-hand side, that's the standard feedback that I just read out that was on that slide on the left-hand side. And then you've got blue visual, green auditory, orange kinesthetic, and purple auditory. So I've put some little phrases in there as examples. You can probably keep this. Actually, once you got on Padlet, you should be there forever, really, until I change it in the future. So I'll put some examples there. So for the visual, for example, you could say, right, appears to me, a glimpse of, clear cut, perspective, mind's eye. So you get the image, you get the picture of what I'm talking about. So for example, in that feedback, you could say, oh, thank you for your review. It appears to me you had a good understanding of how to keep your learners safe in their working environment. And then it's the similar thing for the other types of learning. So your auditory, you've got things like clear as a bell, power of speech, pay attention to, and the kinesthetic, get a handle on, get in touch. Auditory, sense, experience, perceive this, do this. So if you wanted to, if you've got time later, you could click on the bottom right hand side and there's a little plus sign there. And you can just click in there and just think, okay, how would I rephrase that? So I might do, okay, I'm going to say, thank you for your review. So I've got a visual learning here, so I'm going to say, it appears to me, blah, 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 blah. So you get the idea. So just drop in some of those little words in, all those phrases. If you know the learner is kind of fits into one of those types or has that kind of preference, can be really helpful.
Anne, can I just ask a question?
Yes.
So from looking at these, I can see words that I think I use a lot. So would that indicate then that I am that type of learner?
Yeah, so what words are you thinking?
It's the auditory digital.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, probably, yeah, definitely. So that's a good clue that you're thinking, yeah, that's the type. So the words that I use with you now from now on, Rachel, would be those words. So I can get more rapport with you, hopefully. We're on rapport already, but even more.
You can control me, Anne.
I'm going to try that, Anne.
Okay, I'll just quickly finish because of time. Right then, so just to finish off, I know it's just a really quick taster. So just have a little summary then, kind of what you know about NLP, any little tips you might try out, and just try one technique. You're going to have a little go at doing the mirroring, copying people's body language. You're going to have a little go at maybe looking at what words people are using in their communication with you and just kind of putting them in and trying to mirror what people are saying to help rapport. So on slides, we just put some little section in. Have you learned anything? Is there anything you're going to be brave and you're going to try? I think just pick one thing. It's probably the best way to go. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit overwhelming. Hopefully you can get into slido.com on 027 748 and put a comment in there. Okay, fabulous. Yeah, keywords, mirroring, mindset. Fabulous. Good. Trying to change my language, go and learn styles. Fantastic. Lovely stuff. Lovely. Command verbs. Absolutely. Yeah, try with your family tonight. Start copying their body language and everything. You're mindful of words used. Lovely stuff. Oh, that's great. Thanks, folks. Amazing. Okay, yeah, so just let us know how you got on. So you can have a hashtag on there, Panda CPD, or just email us, or just let us know. We'd be really interested to hear from you.
Thank you ever so much, Anne. That's brilliant. That's actually just reminded me there is a hashtag today. If you can put anything on social media, always you can at us in Panda Edu Limited. But yeah, hashtag Panda CPD with the capital CPD. Thanks, Anne. It's really, really insightful. I know neuro-linguistic programming is massive, isn't it? So just to give us a little, and maybe what we could do, Anne, is maybe share some links when we send out the recording. And we can put some links to more reading that people could do, because I know it is a really, really good technique in the use of, in managing behaviour and things like that. So excellent, thank you ever so much. Now over to Brad. So Brad is going to do a little session for us.
He's going to try and share his screen.
You need to come on a course, Brad.
I think I should. I think I've realised it today, especially. I really need to. So yeah, if it's okay, Rachel, yeah, a challenging assessment methodology. So I'm here to pose some questions rather than answers, probably. But listening to Anne's lesson, then absolutely, I've realised why everyone stares at me when I do the 5 whys. So they see that I'm actually attacking them rather than helping them solve problems. So that's answered the question for me anyway. So a question for everybody else then. What are assessment methods? So if you could throw that into chat, and then we'll pick a few out, and then we'll move forward. So if any of you could just post, that would be great. I can't actually see chat now for some reason.
That's all right, Ros will let you know what's in there. So yeah, everybody just pop in what assessment methods that you use.
Yeah, different methods used. Okay, so we've got observations coming through strong, Brad.
Yeah.
We've got professional discussion, questioning.
Expert witness testimony there.
Yeah, WT. Yeah.
Yeah, work products, witness testimony, reflective accounts.
That's good.
Workbooks, assignments.
Oh, the good old mainstay of everything, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
So just because we are slightly behind on timing, we'll just move forward a little bit quicker. So I've come up with a couple of these. So one of the ones that we should be pushing forward with now is RPL. qualifications have had crossovers and combined units for a long time. So RPL is coming into the market a lot stronger now. Product evidence, it's the core, the same as any written assessments. It's your core go-to. But one of the things that Anne said that jumped out at me is, as assessors, and this is not something to put in chat unless you want to, but ask yourself, have you created your own NLP for how you assess? So when you're doing your assessments, are you using the same ones because they're very good for the learners, or are you using the same ones because they're very good for you as an assessor? So it cuts down paperwork workload, because we all know the workload for us is strong. So I just put those up there to start with, really, for something to talk about to get us going. But I really wanted to look at observation today, an observation of performance in the workplace. Just very quickly, as we're going through this slide and I'm talking, could you just put comments in chat about what you deem that means now? Observation of performance in the workplace, because we'll come back to that later on. So for me, what it actually means is we are looking at a learner doing their role in their normal environment, in their normal working environment. Now, if you disagree with that, please enter chat and we'll keep that going. But actually, what is an observation? And with the different hats that I wear, I have to say different things. But personally, observation to me is watching someone doing their role, as I've said. What it doesn't mean to me is I have to be stood 2 foot behind them at all times while they're doing that process. Because one, it's not good for them. Two, it's not good for, if they're customer facing, the customer to see you staring at the learner. And also, as a manager who's been in education, it's very costly to have someone stood in a room with someone else for 2 or 3 hours. Usually an observation costs the company around 100 to 120 pounds. So in today's tight budgets, is it still reality? But is it now, more importantly, the best for the learner? Because what is a workplace? And again, I'll go back to my comment, which says, and I'm not hearing anyone's putting anything up. So,
sorry, Brad, there are a couple actually. Do you want me to just read them?
Yes, please, Ros. Yeah.
So we had Rowan saying visual evidence of the learner carrying out their work in person, virtually, or by sufficient video or photo evidence.
That's fantastic.
We've got Beth saying that they've used a lot more witness testimonies due to COVID. I think we can all say that. Lisa, observation of a learner completing tasks either in the working environment or virtually.
Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? We're all starting to get onto this virtual process. And I think the virtual is the one that we need to move forward with in more realities now than ever before. Because actually, where is the workplace? Well, for everyone that's looking at the screen, you can see my workplace. It's a nice settee with a picture behind it where I work all day. So if someone's going to come and observe me in my workplace face to face, how are any of us as assessors going to get the ability to go into someone's house? We're not. Duty of care, evaluation of risk, we shouldn't be there. So we have to find a change now. And this is the one that had my colleagues at the awarding body sucking air through their teeth. Does it have to be in real time? Do we have to watch them in real time? And I'll leave that one to comments. And if you are going to make a comment on that, I'm sorry to use this word, Anne, why? Why does it have to be in real time? Because we know that the traditional method of observation is being there with them, watching them. I spent many a happy year stood in a freezing cold garage, getting wet, watching someone changing brakes. Because it helps you connect with learners, it keeps you up to date. But is that now the reality of 2021? Could we change observation to suit the learner's experience? Because actually, when we all sign up for this, we all sign up to do the best for the learner. not for anyone else. So actually, we need to change things. And the one at the bottom, obviously my boss didn't like that one. Why do awarding bodies state that they face-to-face observation methods? Because actually the NVQ assessment methods were written in 1986, where we didn't have the technologies we do today to be able to do this. And because they were set in law in the NVQ code of practice, then we couldn't change it unless government decided to change it. So I've taken the opportunity to put one of the new Assessor Awards criteria on there for you to see. And it still says, plan assessment of occupational competence based on the following methods. Observation of performance in the work environment. But again, it doesn't have the clarity to tell you where that needs to be, how you do it. And you have to plan assessment, which is still as relevant today as it always has been. But when we're doing assessments, they should always be fit for purpose. And ask yourself, every time you assess over the next week, is this really fit for purpose for the learner? And that's the change that's coming, I think. So I think it's time for change. And I just, as long as we can get this in time, I thought we'd just have a little look at how, and maybe some of the issues that could arise. So is it fit for purpose now? What could we do to change? Now, we've already got people like yourselves coming up with video evidence, watching people over whichever communication software you use, and then compiling even video evidence, recording it. But who is reluctant to change? In reality, is it awarding bodies? Is it companies? Is it assessors? Can't be learners because they've never done it before. So who is the change? Who has to be the change catalyst? And do we truly get that tailoring of assessments to meet learners' needs? So I think they're the questions that I wanted to pose with you. And go on, Ros.
Before we go into that video, we've got a couple of comments coming through.
Have I upset anyone yet?
There's time.
Okay.
So we've got from Adele, with the emergence of video capability, the learner is able to video themselves and record audio responses. I think this, along with periodic observation by the assessor and witness testimony, can provide robust assessment. So it's a multivariate varied approach there.
I would agree with that, Adele, especially if you think about the product evidence you see as a piece of paper. And the realities of making sure that that's credible is hard. If you have a video of your learner actually doing it, who can argue any form of credibility issues? So it's really good.
And from Kelly, this is interesting. We've got, yes, but video evidence can be edited and changed.
Yes. So why couldn't we put some form of proviso on things, just saying that there has to be a discussion with the learner afterwards if the video's been edited? Because some of the industry I work in, we might have, if we're going to do a whole job, it might be 34, 36, 40 hours. Yeah. But the standards only ask for the critical component parts. So they would maybe edit it together, showing that.
I just wanted to highlight, well, we've had loads, and thank you for everybody putting that in.
Brilliant.
But I just wanted to highlight this one. Rachel Thomas has said that restrictions in place to record with patients involved, so in health and safety.
Absolutely. And again, this is about then where you start to look at making the assessment suitable to the learner and their situation. So maybe they can't do that, but actually the restriction for you going into the workplace might be even stronger. Yeah. So do we disadvantage the learner because of the restriction on assessment methodology, or do we find another way of doing it? And this is just about a start of 10 for how we could explore that change.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Some really good comments coming in there. Okay. Some more good comments as well about GDPR. So
yeah,
I can't find it now. Amy said some companies refuse recording due to GDPR. Yeah. Then further down, Lisa says some employers will participate in observation to ensure that we comply with GDPR. So I suppose it's making sure that all the right checks and balances are in place. Of course, in health and social care, obviously, or childcare settings, you can't video to have service users in the background and things like that. So there are some restrictions. But
it is about being inventive. So I have people ISS teaching, and where they put the camera on the front desk facing the teacher, and so that no learners can be observed during that process, but you can still hear the interaction. So you still get a very good session out of that. And again, you're compliant. And on the GDPR front, I think that's something I always start a day one conversation with the employer and the learner, is how the evidence is stored, monitored, then destroyed in a timely fashion. So we try and do that. But GDPR, the answers, there is no easy answer to this. I think we just need to start exploring it to get to the answers. If that's okay. So I'm just going to show you in the next 3 minutes, 2 videos. I'm only going to show you a little bit, and then we're going to get you to do a poll afterwards for you to decide whether they're suitable or not. So hopefully it'll work.
What up, guys? Welcome to another video. Today is actually one of the easiest brake pad replacements I've ever done. Let me show you. On these STI brakes, the first thing you need to do is get rid of this pin right here. So you pry it out with a screwdriver. There's one down below, little pin, a really thin punch, and a hammer of some sort. I'm going to use the bigger end right here. Pull it out by hand.
So that was video 1. Sorry, it's very short, but you'll get the idea of why it's that short. So we're going to go on to a second video doing the same job, and then we'll have a little discussion at the end.
And today we're going to be doing some basic maintenance on the brakes. So we're going to replace the pads. It's a super easy job you can do at home. The pads for this car are about 30 bucks, and you can save a lot of money if you do it yourself. So first step here on this car, this is a Volkswagen Rabbit. We're going to take the slide pins out. That's what the caliper rides on. So in this one, it's an Allen key. So you grab your socket and your ratchet, pull those out the back. Sometimes they get kind of rusty, so you might need to put a little bit more effort into it than I am.
So 2 very short videos. They are longer. They are on YouTube if you need to learn how to change the pads on your Subaru STI. If not, they're there for that. But the questions I want to pose, and then there will be a little poll that just asks you one question. Could you use one, both, neither of those videos as a direct observation method? So would you allow that? Could a learner recording themselves be acceptable? What safeguards do we need if we are to use these evidences? But I'm just going to, the poll will just ask you, which video would you use as valid assessment methods?
Okay, so poll's in progress. I'll share the results in a second, but at the moment, ooh, it's close.
We're getting some changeovers, aren't we?
Yeah. Okay, so far we've only got half of everyone taking part. So I'll just wait a couple more minutes.
Yeah, no worries.
Ah, there we go. All right, okay. Oh, it's changes. It's like being in the election. I feel like Jon Snow. Right, hang on.
Wasn't he in the north somewhere? I think we're just about there, also.
I think so. So I think we'll end it there.
Okay.
And
so
the results.
So we have one person's gone for video 1. We've got 5 for 2, 10 for both, and 6 for neither. So there's, as you can already tell, there's lots of possibilities with this, and there is no real correct answer. The one thing I would do, reflect on video 2, and if you watched the video, the camera was zooming in and out of the person doing the job. So you could tell who it was probably at most of the time. In video 1, you just see the learner introduce it, then a pair of red gloves. And having watched it all, I can tell you it gets right to the end before the person appears again. So would you allow that then as evidence? Now, as an external verifier, because I couldn't guarantee the identity of the learner at most of the time, I would turn down video 1. But I would accept video 2 because you could see the learner, and on top of what the learner was doing, the learner was talking you through it, displaying their knowledge at the same time. So I would vote for video 2. I wouldn't accept video 1 as an EQA. And some people would rightly, opt for neither if they didn't feel comfortable with the second video was enough. But I think we need to start thinking about what is enough validity. If a learner gave me a nice little job card that said, change the brakes on, all done correctly, or that video, I'd take the video every day because it's real and it's there for us to see. So let me see if I can get the PowerPoint to work again. Oh, yeah. So the question is then, what could we do in 2021? So as I am running over time, I'll just try and wrap it up fairly quickly. So we have to truly take on board the sentences we always say is that we individualize assessment methodologies to suit you, the learner. I think we really need to prove that now. There is so many technological possibilities out there. We've seen one today with our online learning platform. There's so many things we can do now that will make the learner's life easier, and actually, I think, make the assessment life easier as well, especially helping us manage workloads. We have to look at the new qualifications that are coming out in Wales and in England and how the assessment ideas are changing, how the qualification structures are changing. One of the things that I like about the teacher qualifications is people start writing blogs. And I think that gives you a really good insight into what they're doing, how they're learning, how they're growing. As some of you have mentioned earlier, self-recording instead of just writing about things. And doing online observations. So if I was sat in the workshop watching that person changing their brakes, or I was sat at the end of we'll say Zoom, because this is a Zoom meeting, end of a Zoom call, and I was still watching them, what's the difference? So I think we have to be more lateral thinking. Because whether we like it or not, the students of the future will demand the learning support that is appropriate for their situation or context. Nothing more or nothing less. So I think I've managed to get me back within 2 minutes.
Fabulous. Thanks,
No
Bradley.
problem.
Thank you. We've had some really good comments actually come in the chat. Lisa says, if the video camera is in a fixed position, you could see the learner demonstrating completely, which would show authenticity. Absolutely. And then Adele says, I'd always carry out a discussion afterwards to establish which criteria had been met. As an assessor, you need to be confident the learner had met the criteria. Absolutely. And the advantage of a video record is that the learner can view and reflect on their performance. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, where we've used video before and then the learners watched it back and then they don't realize they may be doing something. And I'm actually might go back to what Anne said earlier, or even the body language video, that this is how they are coming over. So absolutely, Adele, I think that's brilliant. They can actually use it as a reflective tool as well. It's just, sorry.
I was just going to say, Rachel, I can remember back on the dawn of time when I did my teacher training, they actually videoed us doing a lesson, not for us to learn from it, other than the fact to pick out your own mannerisms. So I realized that I walk a lot, which is, so working online for me teaching is killing me because I can't get up and wander around as I would normally do.
Me too, Brad. And actually, I went through the same thing in my PGCE because they made us do it. Mind you, back then, they made us watch it back with a big TV and big VHS recorder, giving away my age. And I learnt from that I could have landed a plane in that classroom because I used my hands a lot.
Yes.
So that, taught me a lesson.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you
Thanks,
ever so
Brad.
much.
Really interesting.
No problem. Thank you.
And I think it's all things, it's stimulating thoughts and conversations, isn't it, to be had?
Yes.
Okie dokie. Right, if I can get my little screen back working, that would be useful. Next we have Fiona Argent from the NTFW. Fiona's just going to give us a brief update on her role, changes to her role and within the NTFW. I'm trying to look for Fiona on the screen, but I can't see her.
Here I am.
Oh, hello.
Hi. Do you have my slide, Rachel, or do you want me to share?
Oh, you can share, that's fine. I wasn't sure if you were going to make any changes, so.
Can you see that, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, that's lovely. And thanks for the invitation. It's always lovely to come along to these events, and congratulations both on 5 years. I can't actually believe it's been 5 years. So that's amazing, isn't it? I think I was in the university working when we first met and you just started. So it's really great to see how you've developed and really supported the work-based learning network as you've had. I've been invited along today. I came last year as well, and I came along for some free CPD because I don't normally get any myself either. But I was asked to just give an overview on the sort of the future really, and where we are right now with NTFW, and obviously the changes that we've sort of experienced recently in terms of the contracts. So the quality project, for some of you on the screen have met me before, some of you met my predecessor Kelly, some of you may not have had much to do with NTFW in the past, but the post was established about sort of 6 years ago, I think. And it came to an end in July. But fortunately, Welsh Government have extended the funding for another year, well, until July next year. So I've been working with Welsh Government recently on looking at, you know, what can we do in a year, what the strategic objectives would be for the next year, what can we actually do in the next year. And we're still in discussion really about sort of the finer details, but I thought I'd share with you today the sort of things that I'll be focusing on for the next year really, and the things the Welsh Government want us to focus on, and certainly the things that have come out of COVID. Some of these have been, well, all of them I think have actually been sort of brought to the forefront because of the situation that we've all been in, and interesting to listen to Brad's discussion about assessment. I think last year that's been one of my major headaches really, is working with Quals Wales, working with the awarding organisations to look at mitigations, adaptations, but also look at, you know, what can we be doing in the future so that we can enable assessment to progress, you know. And we had awful issues, as some of you will know, with health and social care and observations and all of that, and it's a very difficult environment, but I think it's interesting, you know, to talk about it. And certainly I think you know, there's a lot of debate now, certainly from Quals Wales and the awarding organisations, about what can we do in the future to mitigate the situation, you know, because we simply couldn't assess, and we had about 38% of our learners in health and social care and childcare, and it was really difficult. So thanks for that, Bradley, that was really interesting. Okay, so I won't keep you any longer because obviously I know we're running over a little bit. So really, I'm just going to share with you, I've got 4 areas that I'm going to be looking at over the next year. So the first one is very much about professional development in our practitioner base. I think all of you on the call today are probably registrants of the EWT. Some of you will be very aware of the professional standards, and some of you will be very aware of the implications really of the code of practice and all of those issues. Welsh Government has recently, in the last year, taken over workforce development for the post-16 sector. So that includes FE, it includes traineeships, and it also includes those delivering apprenticeships. So they really are looking at how they can create a professional learning framework, and I think their deadline is about 2023. And that's what they've asked me to look at really. So this will be a major area. So I'm going to be supporting Welsh Government by looking at how our partners and our providers are utilising the professional work standards, to what extent. And we're also going to be doing some piloting work as well. There's a toolkit that the EWC have produced to support people with the usage of the professional standards, and they've asked the NTFW to, you know, enable that pilot to happen really. So it really is a deep dive into, you know, what's happening out there in the field. I mean, we've got 10 commission contract holders now, but we've got, you know, probably ×5 subcontractors. And an interesting statistic, I don't know if anybody here, I think most of you are from work-based learning sector, aren't you? 66% of practitioners, of work-based learning practitioners, actually work within private providers. Well, that's an interesting fact in itself, isn't it? So, and it, it is difficult to sort of scope that, because, we probably have, as I said, about 50 or more subcontractors are working alongside the commission contractors. So it'll be a really interesting study. And it, with the hope that by 2023, there will be a professional learning framework in Wales for all post-16 practitioners. Now, whether that will include a qualification or whether that will include some sort of accreditation, we don't really know at this point in time. But what we're doing is some early work around what's actually happening out there, and how valuable really are the professional standards to the sector. And I think some of you might have completed a survey early on in the year about how you're utilising them, and obviously all of those findings have been passed on to us right now, and we're going to be starting that project very soon. Okay, so that's that one, and it said it's great to hear all the other CPD that is offered as well with Panda as well. It's all great to see those. This is all about raising the level of teaching and learning across the sector. So it is about capitalising really on what is out there and what you can practically do. So the second sort of area, I suppose, to focus is, you won't be surprised to know, is the ESTIN, the findings that have come out of the 2 thematic reviews that were carried out this year. Some of you on the call are probably involved in those. Obviously, the 2 biggest areas, blended learning and health and well-being. That was the focus, obviously driven by COVID, and what was happening in the network. Very, very good, really good reading, really nice to sort of see all the good stories that have been coming out. And it was really good for Estin to shine a light on the good practice. A couple of recommendations, and those are the things that I'll be working with Welsh Government and Estin to look at. Obviously, blended learning is one of them. How providers and practitioners are using blended learning to assess, but also in their teaching and learning practice, and it's a really big agenda. I think Estin's goal is to make sure that we have no sort of, the provision is equal across the board, so the learners are getting a good standard of teaching and learning. And out of those recommendations, I think that Estin have asked Welsh Government to provide some provision for blended learning, and that is currently being looked at with JISC right now. So that is something that we'll be supporting, not necessarily in the delivery, but certainly we'll be supporting any sort of rollout of that going forward. One of the things that we're more interested in, though, is the learning and teaching quality assurance of blended learning. How do you, quality assure digital learning? How do you quality assure remote learning? So we are looking at models of that really, and how we can sort of, again, support the network in having a consistent approach to quality assuring learning and teaching practice, which is digital. And obviously the final thing is the health and well-being agenda, which is obviously, again, has been bubbled to the surface this year with COVID. And Welsh Government funded an awful, I think it was up to 3 million. They gave work-based learning for blended learning and health and well-being provision this year. And some of you would have been sort of, would have known about that funding and capitalised on it. But we have to do an evaluation of that really. So that's something else that I'm going to be looking at. And again, it's just supporting the repository of resources in terms of, what can we share amongst us, when we are looking at health and well-being. So that's the second area. And then the third area is to create a digital community of practice. It really is about, some of you use Hub right now. We've had so many delays in the rollout of Hub for workplace learning practitioners, but this is something that is critical this year. Again, we've all needed to have digital communities of practice. Now we couldn't go to meetings, we couldn't meet in the coffee shop, so we needed to share digitally what we were doing, how we were doing things. And again, we want to be able to make sure that Hub is the go-to really for any resources or any blogs or any sort of communities regarding very specific subjects. For example, we might have areas for prevent, we might have areas that look at the safeguarding, for learning and teaching, for professional standards, all of the subjects really, and all of the challenges and issues that the work-based learning face. So we want to be able to, by the end of next July, have a fully functioning hub, so that all our practitioners, it will then be the go-to repository for everything that they need to access. That's another big, it's a big project. I'm sure that Welsh Government are actively leading on it anyway, so and they will make sure that that we do have that rolled out to us as a network pretty soon. I'm hoping by Christmas we'll all be able to have hub accounts, so that'll be great. And the final one really is just to continue to advise and support Welsh Government on their renew and reform and the recovery plan for COVID. As I've said, this year has been, all about qualifications for us. It's been about negotiating and working with Qualifications Wales, with Welsh Government, to ensure that apprenticeships progression, and all of you will be aware that, we had some real issues with out-defunding learners and all of those things, because they just couldn't simply be assessed in the sort of normal way. So I go back to Bradley's point really about, we do need to look to the future now and how we're going to influence those dialogues and change, the environment really and the attitude towards assessment. So those are the 4 areas. As soon as I have more specific detail on that, we will be posting them on the NTFW webpage under the quality project, so you can all look at that. But I will be sort of, as I said, probably meeting quite a few more people in the next 6 months with the first objective, certainly, and hopefully, if God allows, I will be coming out to see more people this year and actually going into providers and actually meeting people face to face, which would be absolutely fantastic. So that's it really. I will still continue with the Quality Managers Network, but I think that network is going to be more of a collaborative network now. We're going to have to look at certain areas where, maybe nominate some providers or people within those providers to champion and look after. Because obviously I'm only here for the next year at the minute, and I have those strategic areas to focus on. So yeah, it'll be an interesting, another challenging year ahead, but one thing that I'm very passionate about is raising the standard of post-16 provision in learning and teaching within workplace learning. And I think having that professional learning framework is absolutely critical. So that's me. Thank you very much for the invitation. And
that's okay.
Soon.
Thank you, Fiona. Thanks ever so much for that. It's really interesting to, hear what the Welsh Government and your targets are. And, it's all these things are what Ros and I are passionate about. And, and we've been having conversations about them for a few years. So, yeah, brilliant. We'll hopefully see some things at the end of July that'll take the sector forward. So fabulous. Thanks very much for that. Right, I'm just going to share my screen again just for the last little bit. Okay, so we just want to sort of give you a brief update on what we're going to be doing. Actually, it ties in very nicely with what the targets set by the Welsh Government. So we run professional learning workshops that are actually, they are directly linked into the professional standards. So we run, there's a number of themes that we run, which I'll come on to shortly, that are all about raising the skills and knowledge of work-based learning, post-16, adult community, FE practitioners in how they, in the skills they have to work with learners. Something we've recently started doing is we've launched monthly blogs. So we try and keep them relevant, obviously, to post-16 sector and training skills in particular. We continue to run our suite of qualifications that we offer. And for the future, we're also going to be developing our own short courses, podcasts, resources. So using technology, really, like Ros showed you this morning with Edpuzzle, doing a lot more of those things for our learners, a little bite-size learning that you can do as part of if you're an assessor or IQA course with us. So that's where we're going over the next year or so. So just with regards to the professional learning workshops, these are the ones we've got coming up over the next 6 to 9 months. So we start in September with reflective practice. Now, reflective practice is really important, obviously, for all practitioners, but also now it's being written into a lot of qualifications for learners to reflect as well. So if you have anyone who wants to attend this little workshop, it gives you the sort of underpinning knowledge of how to carry out reflective practice for yourselves, but then it means you can also pass those skills on to your learners who also have to use reflective practice for their qualifications. Like Ros said, on the 12th and 19th of October, we've got Take Your Learning Online. Actually, that's all it is about, blended learning. Ros talks a lot about active learning and how we can then put your current face-to-face training into an online situation. Now, that doesn't mean purely online, it's asynchronous. Is that right, Ros? I get my synchronous. It's asynchronous, isn't it?
Asynchronous is non-live. Synchronous is live.
Oh yes, it's a combination of both, isn't it, that you cover?
It's blended.
Blended. Great. Thank you. In November, we are planning and target setting. So this is specifically looking around how, as assessors, particularly good for new assessors, actually plan with their learners and set targets, because it's important to make sure that the learners are clear that they know what they're doing, so that by the time you've set them, if you go back in a month, they've actually completed work and that they don't come back going, oh, I wasn't sure what I have to do. So that's a really useful one. End of November is feedback for learning and progression. So again, it's something that for new assessors or even for experienced assessors who just want to improve this, how to give verbal and written feedback. Dealing with difficult learners in December is a session that looks at not only oh God, I've got my P's muddled up, NLP techniques, but also assertiveness. So if you, sometimes with our learners, obviously we want them, their well-being to be good. We also need progress. And it's using little tips and tricks with our learners of how we can encourage their progress without putting them under too much pressure. Essential skills numeracy workshop in January. So this is something we ran last year. We had some excellent feedback about it. It's looking at the skills and developing the skills for anybody who delivers essential skills in numeracy in order for them to support their learners. And like I said, we ran about 3 workshops, I think, last year, and we had really good feedback from them all, with people just saying they really enjoyed just sharing with each other and also learning like little tips and tricks for multiplication, division and things. Questioning techniques in February, which is really important for learners carrying out professional discussions or doing any form of assessment, really, in finding out ways that we can ask questions without leading our learners. Again, then professional discussions this is how you prepare your learners for a professional discussion, and ways that we can record professional discussions. Then we've got literacy skills in April, embedding and developing learners' literacy skills. So this is looking about what's naturally occurring for our learners and really supporting our assessors to help develop those learner skills in practice. We've also got some youth workshops coming up. So these are really targeted at people delivering employability or traineeship programs to support them in their practice. So a little QR code there, you can scan that, it'll take you to a page with all these on that you can book on if you're interested. Our monthly blog, so there's a page, this little QR code takes you to the page where you can find our monthly blogs. So we've got qualities of effective trainer, we've looked at emotional well-being, digital tools for trainers, things like that, all things that you find useful in your practice, and that's something we're going to build on and continue doing over the next year. Qualifications, so just as a reminder, these are the courses that we run as a training provider. We've got the IQA, which started yesterday, the assessor course, learning development apprenticeship. So this is for anyone who is maybe a qualified assessor already and just wants to extend their knowledge and skills in wider learning development practice. So there's optional units that match to your job role. So if you're delivering workshops, if you're developing resources, if you're working one-to-one or in groups, there's all individual units that we can tailor to match the job role. So again, there's a link there on the side that will take you to a page for that. We do deliver mental health and wellbeing training. We've got a course in October, which is fully booked, but there'll be more coming up in the new year. And then we also deliver something called Training Skills, which is a really good introduction to actually delivering training. We deliver it online, don't we, Ros? And includes a micro teach. Do you want to expand on that one a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, we're currently delivering that for the NHS. And yeah, we're on our 3rd cohort at the moment, but think of it as like train the trainer, but it's at a higher level. So it's at the level that most companies are looking for, actually, from a trainer to start at level 3. So for those of you that know the old Petals course and award in education and training, which we also deliver, but this is, so training skills level 3 is an Agorad unit. And it's just a more concise version of the AET at level 3, gives you the basics, gives you the key theories behind education. And yeah, it's gone very well so far. It's blended learning again, so there's a lot of resources given to the learners, and they can go off and do their own research. And of course, it ends in the good old micro teach, which we've had a lot of fun doing with the 3 groups.
Lovely, thank you very much. And then we're going to do a leading IQA course. So we've trained so many IQAs over the years that hopefully now those IQAs will be now leading a group of other IQAs. So we're going to do a leading IQA course in February. Here's different ways that you can keep in touch with us. So we are on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We share a lot of information on Twitter, sharing other also useful resources that we find from other people as well. So please give us a follow there. Our Facebook group, we just tend to share news, and the same with LinkedIn as well. Instagram is a bit more fun. We just tend to post pictures and
pandas
that
usually
interest us. Yes. So yeah, please feel free to give us a share. And that's it for today. So thank you ever so much for joining us. Now, what we would like to do before you all disappear is a quick training room selfie. Ros, would you like to lead on the training room selfie?
I would. In order to do that, Rachel, would you be able to stop sharing your screen so I can get everybody on? So for anybody that has never done this before, we do a training room selfie, so it's a goodbye wave. However, if you don't want to be on it, switch your camera off. We always take out the names before we tweet it or anything. But if you do want to take part in a group Panda wave, and now's your time. Thank you everyone for joining today. We've had some great feedback already. We'll send you out a link to the recording just in case you want to revisit any parts. But again, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend. Hope to see you all soon. Wait. Thanks everyone.
Are you taking the picture, Ros? Yeah.
Yeah, I've taken the picture. But you keep waving if you want.
Thanks everyone, and thanks to Bradley and Anne for your sessions today, and to Fiona, who I think she's popped off. But hopefully see you all either at the other end of a Zoom call or on a PLN. So thanks all for joining.
Thanks.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Yeah.